everyone. It's Julianne Meyer, your host of Own Your Wellness. Happy, what is it? Today's Thursday. Yay. I had to think about it. It has been quite a day for me. I just want to be upfront and a little transparent. I had some horrible news this morning. Somebody that I care about very much suddenly passed away from COVID. So prayers go out to his family. He had 2 little boys and a loving wife, and it's just sad news. So if my energy is off just a little bit, that's why. But I got to tell you, the guest that's on today, I didn't want to cancel because she is so awesome. And whenever I'm around her, my spirits are instantly lifted anyway. Not that I'm going to use her for her energy, but I want to bring her to you guys. So without further ado, her name is Adriana Dale, and let's bring her on. Hello, Adriana.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. So nice to see you, Julianne.
It is good to see you too. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk to a little bit before. So surprise, I've got some news, but this is not about me. This is about you. And so I would love it if you would share with our guests a little bit about who you are and your own wellness journey.
Okay, great. I am Adriana Dale, and I am a abundance and life coach. And so my passion is to really help people find more joy and ease and a whole lot more money, right? Really connecting to repairing the relationship they have with money so they can bring more of it in.
I love that. And a lot of people wouldn't even think about wellness and money going together, or, there's all these beliefs about money is the root of all evil and all of these things. And I really want to get to the bottom of that with you today, because you and I both know that that's not the case. And do you want to live poor? Or do you want to live abundantly?
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm curious, what got you started on this fascination and this interest, because it's obviously your calling, so your purpose in life, but it usually starts with a story or some sort of interest. I'd love it.
Yeah, I do have a story, actually. I'd love to share it with you. A while back, I was very happy in my corporate job, and I used to just go home and I would daydream, about what would it be like if somebody called me and, offered me a position that instantly doubled my salary, right? At this time in my life, I was very happy, and I did want more money, but I just felt so grateful and grounded in, my place of work. I loved it. And I went out on maternity leave, and during that time, I got a call from a CEO, and he wanted to meet with me. So I went to meet with him, and he offered me a job on the spot, right? He sent over an offer that afternoon, and it was exactly double my salary. And I was terrified. There was a part of me that was like, oh, nobody should be paying me this much money. They got it wrong. Who do they think I am, right? I took the job, I made the leap. And during that time, my husband lost his job, right? He was let go. They let go of a lot of people in the company because they were downsizing, and it was very hard on him. And he had a very kind of niche position. And it was financially a disruption to our family. And he was dealing with his own, feelings of just feeling like not appreciated. And there was a lot going on emotionally for him. And so I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. How are we going to make it through? Here we had just experienced this quantum leap, and now we were back to square one, and it was terrifying. So I just made a decision. If I doubled my salary, I'm going to do it again. And I had no idea how to do it. I had no clue. So I really started to get focused on wealth consciousness. And in that study of wealth consciousness, I came across the concept of energy. And this is just a few years back. And something about the understanding of energy and the relationship we have with the energy around money resonated so cellularly in my body. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've been doing this my entire life. I didn't even have a name for what was going on. I can see all of these patterns in my life my quarter life crisis when I was 25, like all of these periods in my life. And I can clearly see the energy of where I sat at those points in time when there was just these massive, like unexpected shifts in my life. So then, I got really interested in mindset, and I started teaching it because my career background is I was a leadership training facilitator. I used to create leadership content. And so then I just had the idea of I'll take everything I know and how I know how to write content for companies. I'll create my own content and I'll sell it to companies, right? This is something that is so outside of my box of like being a hardworking W-2 employee my entire life. That's how I grew up. That's the goal, right? Is to get a good paying job with a 401k. So I just discovered money, and I was able to communicate it to people in a way that made sense to them and didn't seem overwhelming. And then people just started to ask me if I would work with them around the subject of, mindset and, finding more peace and joy in their life and being willing to like imagine a better life for themselves, right? And that's how I started my journey with abundance coaching and life coaching.
I didn't know that. And that's so cool. What a fascinating start. I love that so much because, something weird that happened to me or has happened to me so many times that it's obviously, well, you and I know it's not an accident, but anytime that I've genuinely, and the only way I could describe it, because I didn't have better terminology at the time, was genuinely wished from like my core. And it's a certain type of energy. And I would always get exactly the money that I was wanting every single time. And it just came in the most weird ways.
Yeah. Yes. Because there's also a spiritual element to it, right? Like that universal intelligence, call it what you will. Is it, is it consciousness? Is it God? Is it spirit, right? Whatever it is that you connect with.
Yeah.
It has a better path than you can imagine. So the letting go of the way that you imagine that it's going to come in is part of, the learning part of the embracing, is the surrender around how it's going to happen.
Exactly. And I've got a story, a quick one I got to tell you, because this one's fascinating to me. Do you know who Pam Grout is? She's an author. And I think you'd actually really like her book, E Squared. Anyway, it's a book about universal laws and like experiments to prove that they're real. And so one of them was that, you just had to basically say, I want some sort of big, undeniable like present or whatever, or something along those lines from the universe. And so I did that, and I was thinking, okay, well, what's going to happen? And then this guy that I knew, I was training him, and his wife had passed away a while ago. And he's like, do you want to look through her clothes and see if there's anything you want? And I was like, sure. And so, it was probably, I easily got like $5,000 worth of clothes that day, but I didn't even think about it being that. And then my boyfriend said, talk about, a sign from the universe. And he didn't know what I was doing. So he just happened to, make that connection. Yeah. It was so crazy. And then I realized, maybe not even a week before, I'd been, wishing for new clothes, and but I didn't want to spend the money on them. So it was fascinating how it does work if you, but I couldn't even see it, even though I did the experiment. So, do you think that a lot of people have those types of blessings and don't recognize them?
Yeah. You could get incredibly specific when it comes to what you're asking, spirit for, right? So, when I got really clear about what I was asking spirit for, there's so many times that we say, oh no, that's a coincidence, right? That can't be right. That's just weird. And it can't really be a message. And I'll tell you one quick story because it's such a funny one. I was on my path to starting my business, and I just said, like, show me that this is the right path, right? Show me that I'm not messing up. Show me that, like, following my gut, following my heart is the right thing to do, and that it's going to work. And I said, show me a hummingbird, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was washing dishes in the morning on a weekend, and there's a hummingbird flying around my back patio. And I'm like, oh no, that doesn't count because I actually have hummingbird feeders. So naturally, like, it's just the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting out back drinking coffee, and the amount of sheer hummingbirds that were just whizzing by me in my back patio that morning was more than, like, it wasn't even their feeding time. So I just thought, like, isn't this strange? No, 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 this can't be it. Fast forward a couple hours, I'm sitting in my living room and my kids start screaming, and they're like, Marley, our cat, is going to eat the hummingbird. A hummingbird flew into our home and
Oh
was
my
flying around the home. And I had to get a dish towel and catch it. And finally, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, the sign is real.
Oh, I love that. And it's so funny, but that's exactly the point. It's like, oh no, even when you ask for a specific indication,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, that can't be it.
Yeah.
Well, I love that because I think a lot of people miss the blessings because it's right there. And I feel like it's a God shot, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm the universe and I'm giving you something and you don't see it. I mean, it's just so fascinating to me.
It is.
So,
Yes.
I'm curious, how is it that you help clients? What types of things do you help them with or through?
Well, I truly believe that you can't live your most expanded life
Mhm.
unless you have money, right?
Yeah.
In order to be fully expressed, you have to have money. And the relationships that people have with money are so complex, right? Because we know about money from the time we are very little. We see it influencing our families, right? The relationships within the family dynamic. We see, and we start picking up on all these cues as little kids. And there's just general conversations always about money. Life is expensive. Things are getting more and more expensive. I remember my parents always saying, like, how are these kids going to buy homes? These prices are crazy nowadays. Like, how can anybody get ahead? And so,
Yep.
and so the relationships and the stories really create these foundational beliefs, right? Because a belief is just a thought that you think over and over and then just take on as truth. And, these beliefs keep people really stuck. And if you can explore where they came from, right? And be willing to see things differently, because that's the key to everything, to all change that we have. You got to be willing to see things differently in order for your experience to change. So I work through that with my clients. And I also take an approach of, like, not really babying them, right? Seeing them as their best version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, I will call out, this is kind of princessy mentality, or, this sounds like victim mentality to me. Where is this coming from? And I think that my directness, coming from like a pure place of love, is really what helps people get to the other side, right? They're not offended by it because energetically they know that it's not a judgment. It's just observation to get them past that block.
I'm just curious, where are you from originally?
I'm from LA County, Covina.
Really?
I grew up in Covina, yeah.
You so have an East Coast vibe about you.
Oh, really? My husband's from Pennsylvania.
Maybe that's why you guys get along. But yeah, there's just, maybe it's the directness that you do have. That I always associate with East Coast. But yeah, no, I appreciate that because it's coming from the right place. So it's just because you're not co-signing their crap story doesn't mean that you don't love them. And it doesn't mean that,
Exactly.
And plus, if you're working with somebody, the point isn't to baby them. The point is to help them. So I love that you are actually willing to do that, because a lot of people are too afraid of hurting feelings. And
yeah, it comes from, when I was a leadership trainer, when I was doing full on leadership training, I was with Trader Joe's corporate for 14 years, and it was like, if you don't help people be a better version of themselves as a leader, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
The conversation doesn't have to be mean, right? The conversation can just come from a place of, you're better than this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I expect better because you are better. And together we can, we can support each other in being the best versions of ourselves at work. And so that's how I feel about, my clients. I really do see them as the optimal version of themselves.
So my thing is, we're talking a little bit about how, changing perceptions about things in people's lives just so that they can see things differently, have differently. But I mean, like you were talking about particular money stories that we have, or like everything's expensive, or money doesn't grow on trees, or things like that. But if you don't know that that's a particular issue for you, how do you go about seeing that? I mean, do you need somebody else to point it out to you? Or is there, because obviously you've done some work. So how did you figure it out?
Well, okay. So when I started really kind of exploring the idea of mindset and energy, I became exceptional of being the gentle observer, right? Of being like the witness to the thoughts. And that process of really kind of examining all the thoughts that you have, it's a lot of work, right? It's exhausting. But I was really, really intentional about it. So I just started on that path of really kind of taking a look of, why do I feel this way? Where did this come from? Is it true? Is it serving me? Right? There's like so many different ways that we can take a look at these as these beliefs that we hold. And so, when you're not there, I feel like anybody who begins working with me, they've already done the hard work of signing on, right?
Exactly.
That's you've made a decision. So if they're already willing to make that decision, then it becomes fairly easy for us to explore the beliefs, because I'm not trying to, I always say, like, I'm not doing sales. I'm just trying to help people, right? Yeah. I'm inviting them to come along and to shift some things in their lives. So I don't find like that's the difficult part once we start working together, because they already made the decision to try to explore a different way of mastering, right? Something that they're having trouble with.
And, I think too, part of, especially when it comes to money, because it seems to be such a loaded topic. And, if you have money, then people resent you. If you don't, people resent you. I mean, it's like you just can't win in the normal world, the way normal people think. But I'm just curious, because there seems to be a lot of shame and things like that associated with, not having enough, or maybe even having too much, or not too much, but more than other people. Do you find that sometimes it's harder for people to reach out and ask you for help because of those things, because they have all these thoughts and beliefs, or that's finally to the point, like, I don't care, I need help, I just need it?
I don't experience people like having a hard time reaching out, because those aren't the people who really I work with. I work with the people who are like trying to next level, right? The people who don't have to be convinced to sign on and work with me. But I do, oh God, there was a beginning part of your question that I don't remember, but I had an answer to it. What was the question?
We were talking about shame around money. And
oh, yes. So when we think about like the shame around money, what I find is that not having enough, feeling stuck, feeling stressed out, feeling anxiety around your bills, and watching other people live their lives in this manner where you're like, we make it mean something about us. That's what shame is that we make it mean that we failed. We make it mean that we're not good enough, right? Or that we weren't dealt a good hand, right? Like, let's talk about victim mentality, right? We weren't dealt the right hand. We don't have the right connections. So you know, that there's a lot going on there. There's shame, there's victim mentality, and there's really something so profoundly powerful in getting to a point where you understand your inherent worthiness around money and you recognize the patterns that kept you stuck, and you accept them as part of your journey, and you decide to tell a new story, right?
Yes.
Like that shift is incredible. Like that shift is like makes you feel like so supported and taken care of, and like a badass, right? I figured it out. I figured
Yes.
it out. Anybody can figure it out. They just have to be willing to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the willingness. And that's kind of why one of the main reasons why it was so important for me to have you on the show, because, you know, you said something that I really want to highlight is that you don't work with people who aren't, you know, willing to make that leap. But there are people out there that are teetering on that edge where they just haven't met the right person or heard the right thing to make them go like, you know what? I'm ready, or now is the time. And so I really was so glad that you were able to come on the show so that you could talk about these things, because it also takes a lot of the stigma out, you know, and the perceptions that are held by a lot of, well, society in general. So I love that you turn it into energy and not about the person. I know, like for me, growing up, money was a worthiness thing for me. You know, and it was always turned into, I mean, literally, I had a freezing cold bedroom, and my stepdad was upset because he had to spend his $20 allowance on a heater for my room. And we're talking, it was like freezing temperatures in my room. It wasn't, you know, just like I'm making a baby. But so we're, you know, so of course I've had that, you know, in the back of my, well, not anymore, but I had that in the back of my mind for the longest time that I wasn't even worth heat. So, you know, it's, I mean, and I'm not alone. Like that's, but I happen to be aware of that. A lot of people wouldn't even remember that, but oh, that brings up another question, but we'll talk about, well, actually we do have a little bit of time. Do you think it's really important to remember all of these things and these stories that you've been told or feelings that you've had in the past in order to get rid of them? Or do you think it's just more like an energy shift?
Well, you know, if you don't know where it's coming from, you do have to get, you know, have some kind of remembering where it came from, right? To recognize, oh, okay, well, this is why I'm here. This is why I don't feel worthy of the money. The energy shift is also a possibility, but the energy shift comes when you've been doing the work for a while, right? Because, you know, the energy shift is just a decision, right? And the people who can make a decision and decide, okay, this isn't part of my story anymore. Thank you for serving me. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. You know, I'm moving on from this story. You don't just get there day one, right? Like that energy shift comes with time when you have been working and understand energy and have really been trying to harness your vibration for a while. So at the beginning, I do think that, you know, that it is important to go back. But I've also had clients who've been doing the work, right? Have been understanding energy already, and they move a lot faster because they've already kind of done the groundwork on their own. But for the people who are teetering, right? Like, well, is this something, is this real? Is it not real? You can always find evidence of it being real, right? Because the way that I saw it when I tried to do something that was completely outside of the way that I knew how to do things, which was to work hard, right? To put in the time, to, you know, be willing to like take these massive risks in business, right? Like, I just believed that that was it. I didn't believe in play. I believed that we worked, right? There was no work that you can put in front of me that I would not do. Like I would literally shovel shit. Like, you're gonna pay me? Like when I was, you know, I've cleaned houses. I've done it all. There's nothing beneath me. But But when you just decide that, okay, I've been feeling a certain way for a certain while, and I know and I see that there are people out there who've made these massive life changes, from homeless to millionaire. And you see all that evidence of it, and it's out there. I mean, if you look for it, you will find it. My question was always like, why can't I, right? If they could figure it out, so can I. I'm going to take their story and I'm going to be, motivated, and I'm going to thank them for showing me that there is a possibility that exists outside of, what I've been programmed to believe.
I love that. Oh, and on that note, we have to go to commercial break. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to continue this conversation. We'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
Isn't she amazing? Now you totally understand why I needed to have her on the show, because she has this way about money and talking about the energy behind it that will change lives. And I know that she's got a unique voice that people can hear. And she's of this time. So it's not Napoleon Hill, but she knows what she's talking about. So anyway, as I mentioned, we do need to go to commercial break. But before we go, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching us live. It's always a pleasure to have you here. But we're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're just joining us, my name is Julianne Meyer and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And today's special guest is Adriana Dale. Let's bring her back. Welcome back. Oh, there's your phone.
Back.
So during the commercial break, I was thinking about a few different things, but something that I love to ask my experts is, how do you keep your energy high? What are some things that are non-negotiable? Like, do you meditate? Is there movement involved in your day? Do you have to eat a certain way? What does your day look like?
Well, yes. Okay. So I meditate almost daily. I find that my mind is a lot more clear. I'm, not really a reactive person, and there's just some things that I'm not available for, like overwhelm. I just don't even allow that into my life, which really helps keep my energy really clean. And like, there's just other things. I'm a big daydreamer. I spend a lot of time really kind of visualizing my life the way that I want it. And there's just rules that I've made in my life that keep my energy high. You know, I'm a mom to 2 little kids, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And my thing on motherhood is that being a mom is fun, right? I don't engage in conversations of being a mom is super hard, right?
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of really just general things that I do that keep my energy high, you know, and it's mostly a lot of mindset stuff. I also really, you know, pay attention to how I feel, to how my body feels, especially lately when I've like really been mindful about energy. It matters more to me than anything, right? Where my vibration is a key factor in my life.
I love it. You know, something that's kind of been fascinating for me is, I mean, obviously it's a journey. Wellness is a journey. Everything is, you know, and this is one of my favorite sayings is that we live in a world that's a microwave society. We want it right now.
Yes.
But one of the things is I've always said that you don't go from potato chips to kale chips or eating broccoli in one fell swoop. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're cured from all of that. But the thing is like now that I'm like further along in my own personal journey, I can't even watch the same TV show because I might have nightmares. Like, and it's not even necessarily something super negative. You know, there's no killing or anything like that, but I have to be exceptionally careful with that because it really affects my energy now. Yeah. That never used to bug me before. I just wasn't aware of it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. So, so somebody who's embarking on, you know, changing their relationship with money, what would you recommend to somebody that just is like dipping their toe into the pool? They're not necessarily ready to start working on it, but maybe they just want to learn a little bit more.
Well, you know, if you want to learn a little bit more and dip your toe around the consciousness of money, there's some books out there that really do great jobs of storytelling and doing energy. Like my favorite is, you know, You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero.
I love that book.
It's lighthearted. It explains energy. It explains spirit in a really enjoyable way, right? I feel like it's kind of like a comedy book / like, you know, prosperity money mindset book. So that would be a good, stepping stone in it. And also just daydreaming, right? Like daydreaming was so huge for me. The focusing on what you want versus what you don't have, and then just instantly feeling the difference between that emotion than the emotion of lack and reminding yourself of what you don't have or how things are hard. So I'd say daydreaming and finding a good book that really speaks to you.
You know, it was kind of fascinating. Jen, I actually spoke to her a while back, Sincero, really? About, yeah, she's a really nice lady. And super funny, but yes, her books are I like all of them.
Yes, me too.
And then there's also the Napoleon Hill. That was hard for me. I can listen to it on audio, but it's really hard for me to read. What else? There's so many different options out there. But you just think whatever speaks to you kind of?
Yeah, you know, everybody says it differently. It's fascinating to me that, like, I've read every leadership book under the sun, right? Read the money mindset books and wealth prosperity book and wealth consciousness. You'll see a trend, and the trend is energy. They're all saying the exact same thing, but it's all said in a different way. Like, one of my favorites is The Science of Getting Rich. It is 57 pages. It is a short read, which I really appreciate. And it tells you, right, there is a thinking substance that creates your reality. So my message to anybody who just is like, is this possible for me? Absolutely. Like, you need to choose yourself. You choose yourself over and over again, and always make yourself first. And that includes, right, figuring out how to connect with more money, to bring it in, to allow it to flow, to feel the freedom, the ease, the joy, the support that abundance allows in people's lives. And it looks different for everybody, right? You could be a person who just wants to buy an Airstream and travel around the country, and just having enough money to do that is what fills your soul with joy, and that's great. It's different for everyone, but if you have something in your heart and you're being stopped by the experience or the fulfillment of that dream because of money, I feel like it's your obligation to figure out how to do it, because it's going to be a tug that keeps being a tug, and it's going to grow louder and louder if you don't get there. And it's also, if this is about health, it affects your health, right? Anxiety, fear, those are emotions we hold in our body and affect us on a physical level every day. I mean, it affects your digestion. It would affect anything if you're really struggling in this area.
I think that's a really good point. Oops, I can hear myself on your side. Can you turn it down just a tiny bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Does that help you?
I think, now I can't hear me at all, which is great.
Okay, great.
It's like being on the phone. It's like, what? Anyway. I love that idea though, too, about abundance, because, people, well, first of all, let me back it up. What I really want to say is that, the whole money is the root of all evil. Well, I don't agree with that, simply because people who don't have stuff are the ones that steal. People that don't have the money are the ones that, commit these crimes. So how is it having it making you evil? It never made sense to me. Like, logically, it's kind of like the saying, life's a bitch and then you die. Well, wouldn't it be a blessing if you died then? Because it just never made any sense to me. But I'm curious what your least favorite sort of thought patterns that people have about money are. Like, because like I said, mine is like the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil. I hate that one. That one bugs me to no end. But what about you?
Well, let me touch upon the root of all evil. It makes it easier to not have money if you make the other, which is the person with money, evil, right? Because somehow it just allows you to feel okay about not having it, right? Because you could label people with money as cheats or liars or greedy, or, and it's just this idea that money has a limit. Only a certain amount of people can have it, when really, money is limitless, really, truly. It's just a social and economic construct that we believe in as a society. But, some of my least favorites are, I would have to say, that everything is expensive, because I feel like that's something that everybody uses, right? Like, the idea that things are expensive is such a common, phrase that people use about everything, right? And labeling things as expensive is really repelling money from you, right? It's saying to everything around you that, you're not attainable. And so what happens is, energetically, you're going to align to that energy, and you just constantly start to look, because that's the way that our brain works. Our brain, if you have a belief that things are expensive, your brain will scan to make you right? It will just look around for evidence that you are correct. So then you are living in this pattern of constantly identifying things as expensive. Another thing that I don't like is, I can't afford it, right? That was one that was ingrained in me, right? Oh, I just can't afford it right now, is what I would always say. Like, right now is not the time. When is the time? Like, in like actual terms, yeah, I could have afforded these things, but this story that I just kept living under was really keeping me stuck, and it created my reality. It just really truly made me believe that I couldn't afford the things I wanted.
That's one that has been one of my things too. And old me would have said something along the lines of, but I really don't have the cash in, my bank account or wherever. I don't have it. So how am I supposed to pay for it? And obviously I've come up with a new way of looking at things, but what might you say to somebody who is saying that? Because I know that would have been my stock answer to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that move us forward that require money that we don't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of credit, right? People have such a bad idea of credit. It's like credit is neutral. It's just something that we are so fortunate to get to pay off over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have the cash to do it right now. It implies that there aren't a million other ways of coming up with the resources in order to be able to have this thing that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I find that there's just a lot of really common patterns. Like some people who don't have money are obsessed with shopping, right? Because, and it's just this constant pattern because your net worth is directly correlated to your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like one of the main things that I work with all my clients around is how do you feel about you is going to really create like a very similar identity financially for you, because it all boils down to our worthiness, right? Our self-identity.
Yeah. I know some people won't like hearing that, but that's a truth bomb right there. And I love the idea of instead of looking at what you don't have, figuring out a way to get it. And I had this coach for a while. He's a Zen life coach, and he just gotten out of the monastery, and he needed a new Mac computer or something along those lines. And he literally did not have. I mean, he didn't have anything at this point because he had just come out, and instead of being like, I don't have it, he was like, how can I create this? And he was able to do it within like a week or so. But,
Mm-hmm.
if he gotten stuck and I don't have it, he wouldn't have it. He still probably wouldn't have it. So I like the idea of focusing on how you can look at it differently. And like, is it going to help you to sit there and say what you don't have? Or can you sit there and think about, well, what's a way that I can get this credit? For example, as you mentioned, I paid for things with loans before, it just kind of depends on your willingness to look at things in a different way. I love that.
It does. And I just want to say one more thing, because I think that this happens to a lot of adults, is like when I was a kid, I was an incredible manifester. Like before I knew anything about manifesting, like I didn't even understand the word manifesting until a few years back, right? But like everything would just in a snap happen for me. And then as I got older and then I had a, quarter age crisis, I almost felt like adulthood had to be harder. And there was this period of my life where I literally made everything harder because I felt like, this is where we need to figure out how we're going to live, like how we're going to be adults, how we're going to survive, like how I'm going to be like successful and create a career. And if I reflect upon it, it was all kind of, a lot of it was self-imposed. And now where I'm a lot more connected to a vibration of possibility and play and only available to do things that are fun, right? And light me up. It's like a completely different experience. But I feel like people, when they really start getting stuck financially, I feel like there's this internal belief that at some point in your life, things get hard. And so then they do.
Yeah, you brought up one of my favorite things. I'm on another TV show, and it's called The Chat TV. And basically what it is, it's 5-minute segments, and we answer questions. And one of the questions that was asked was, do you consider yourself hardworking? And for me, that was like nails on a chalkboard. I could not stand that question because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, no, I'm not a hard worker because I don't work in a coal mine. That to me is hard work.
Oh yeah.
No, comparatively speaking, but so many other people would look at me and say, wow, you're a really hard worker. And I'm sitting there thinking, no, what I do is not hard work. So I don't even want to label it that, because then it turns into that energy. And who wants to wake up dreading the day? I don't know.
Yeah. And another truth is that having more money is less work than having less money. It is a lot harder to work an 8-hour shift at McDonald's than it is to be a person who is making a lot of money. I always found it baffling, but the more money I made in a corporate business setting, the easier my work became, right? And it's true of anybody who is, their own business owner. I mean, there are people out there who are making millions upon millions of dollars, and some of them believe that you have to work really hard and long hours, and that's how they get their wealth. And there are people out there who sit on a beach 6 months out of the year, right? And they're like, maybe I should work on a project and bring in the same amount of money. But whatever your beliefs are is how you get the result. So it's really important that if anybody is looking for, a coach on financial prosperity or abundance, that they really connect with somebody who they vibe with, right? Mm-hmm. Because, there's the Grant Cardones and the 10Xers, and then there are the spiritual junkies out there that will tell you it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fulfilling, right? It's supposed to light you up.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I tried the hardworking way, and it was.
Oh, I did too.
I was thinking back about how COVID has changed my work schedule, and how, not that I worked at this job, and I ended up quitting before COVID. And so I was doing something else before that, but I was thinking about that particular job for a while. And, I was on call 24/7, and literally on call for years, for 24/7. Even when I was on vacation, I would get calls. And that was probably the hardest work, but I did the least. And it was because I delegated everything, and it was just not so much fun. And it was just interesting though, because it took such a toll on me. And then I finally quit, and it was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do that to be, survive. I don't have to survive my day. I can actually go to work and enjoy what I do. Mm-hmm. Or now I don't go to work. I work from home. So, but I never would have known that was even a possibility had it not been for COVID. So, there are blessings in everything, I suppose. So,
yeah, I'll share a quick story with you. I just stopped and left the corporate world in October of this past year. So I've been working on my own for just a few months. And leading up to that, I was very nervous about leaving, right? I had worked myself up to making, multiple 6 figures at a corporate setting. And I knew in my heart that it was not where I wanted to be. Yeah. I loved the work. I loved the people. And I gave myself till January to put in my notice and give hugs and say goodbye. But I knew that I would be too terrified to make that decision. And so I just said, show me the way. I do not think I'm brave enough to make that decision and to put in a notice and to walk away. I knew I couldn't do it. So in October, I got called into a meeting, and I was let go because of COVID, and all my training had stopped, and there was a new CEO. And I remember I walked in thinking it was another meeting, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, this is the moment. And I remember thinking like how lucky I was that it was happening. And because, now I didn't have to make the decision was already made for me. And I got a severance package that was far larger than anything that I imagined. And it just like kind of all worked beautifully. And I got to stay home during the holidays with my children, which was the first time I've ever done that, right? Like be home during the holidays and, decorating the house and like literally having no place to go Monday through Friday. It was incredible. But that's how it works when you know something and you just ask for guidance, right? You ask to be supported, you ask to be shown, and the answers always show up, right? It's like, like leap in the net will appear. That happens over and over and over again. And you have to make decisions that make you really uncomfortable because it's the only way to create a different reality, right? The trust and the surrender is key. You got to keep meeting that edge of your fear every time. You just keep bumping into it so that you can continue to expand and expand and expand, and condition your mind to only be the kind of mind that meets the edge every single time, because you just don't have time to stay stagnant, right?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. And this is something I haven't really shared with a lot of people, but I had decided that this was going to be the year 2021 of uncomfortability, and, walking into that with open arms. And I set up certain things for myself so that I was going to be, on edge, for lack of better terminology, slightly, just so I got more used to, that edge of, the fear and the discomfort. And, there's some things that have happened. And I would tell, say, my boyfriend, for example, and he would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, honey." I go, "Well, I asked for it." I asked for this, so don't feel bad for me, and I'm not a victim, but isn't it ironic it showed up?
Yeah.
Oh, so we are running low on time, so I want to make sure if there's any last words of wisdom, any little tidbits you'd love to share with the audience. I'd love for you to take that time now.
I think that one of the most important things to being open to the idea of more money and being like worthy of going after your dreams is really making yourself first, right? Learn to love yourself first, right? I have children that I adore. I have a husband that I adore. I always love me first, right? I teach my kids to love themselves first. Because when you love yourself first, you're filling your own cup. You're not depending on other people to say the right thing that you need to hear in the right moment. Otherwise, they don't love you enough, or that's way too much stress to put on anybody, right? So when you love yourself first, then you can love others, freely and expand with the other people in your lives. And so, if you're struggling, don't connect with the struggle, connect with the love and the worthiness that lives within you, and things will begin to shift for you, right? Because you love yourself first. It all becomes so much easier when you can get on that train.
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It has been it's always a pleasure to hear you speak. It lights my heart up, and I love your wealth of knowledge and that you're willing to share it with the world.
Oh my God, Julianne, this was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
I didn't want that to end. I don't know about you. She's amazing. I just love her so much. And now you know why. I'm so glad that I made the decision to come on, even though I was like, wah, poor me. And I got the opportunity to share her with you. So thank you for watching, and we will be back on Monday. Until then, enjoy your weekend.